Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is the pregame show. Browns, Bengals, Battle of Ohio. Back in Cleveland, the Browns return home after what seemed like a eternal road trip. But it will be an interesting one today, that's for sure. We've got much to discuss on today's pregame show with my esteemed panel here with me. The one and only, the legend, you know him well, Fred Greetham from Berea, and of course Jacob Roach down below. How you doing, Jacob?
Good, man. Good. I'm again cautiously optimistic. So
we'll see. Right. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Fred, what's going on there in Berea? What's going on? We got our inactive list. Some surprises here, especially Jamus Winston showing up on the inactive list. What do you make of that? And what are the vibes there around the stadium?
Well, yeah, I am at the stadium, not in Berea yet. I mean, I think in a few years we'll be in Brook Park. But yes. No, I mean, it's a little bit of a different pregame. I mean, I saw Nick Chubb was out on the field about 3 hours before game. I put a video up there. I mean, he's chomping at the bit. He's starting. He's not only active. I thought they'd ease him in. They probably still will ease him in, but they're going to introduce him as a starter, and he's probably going to be out there on the first play. I'm really looking – I don't get too much into the introductions, but I think today will be pretty special. It will be really interesting because I think they'll obviously do the offense, but then you got Deshaun Watson, so I don't know if you're going to squeeze him in real quick behind Joe Bitonio and then say Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, or how they're going to do it. But it could get ugly. I mean, yeah, the flip-flop of DTR to number 2, as Brad Stainbrook posted, he's hearing that the leash is getting shorter on Watson. You'd think it would be so, but I could see if in the second half the Browns are down, considerably, or whatever, that Kevin Stefanski finally pulls the trigger, because I think they clearly see that if they're going to go for the future and they give up completely on Watson, I don't really think you go to Jamus Winston for the long-term answer. So it will be interesting. I don't know if you pull Watson, if you can go back to him at some point. I guess they would think they could, but it will be interesting to see what happens here, especially the crowd, the reaction, all the way around. And so if it's an ugly game today, as one of the guys just said, he could switch to Thompson Robinson next week. But I think they're as healthy as they've been in a long time, with obviously the return of Chubb. But Juan Thornhill, he hasn't done a whole lot but be injured. He's coming back from that calf injury. He's actually been out since the opener with the Cowboys when he led the team in tackling. So that could give a boost to the secondary with Grant Delpit back as well. Jordan Hicks is back, starting at linebacker, and Ethan Posick. I think that gives you your best chance, with him back at center. And Michael Dunn's going to go back to right guard in place of Zach Zinner. So, I mean, they're about as healthy as they've been. They're down Wyatt Teller. And the big question today, what do they do at wide receiver? Even though Amari Cooper was down, he still probably was one of the best options. You haven't seen a lot with Cedric Tillman, and they've got him in the starting lineup now. So he's going to have to put up or shut up, in a hurry. You might even see Jamari Thrash get some, and some of these guys are going to have their opportunities. So Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see some Jamari Thrash today myself. Anxious to see what he can do out there. Yeah, you're right about the wide receiver core. It will kind of I think it'll naturally kind of take form as who performs today. The buzz around the stadium, it's excited. Is there something going on with the Hall of Fame today over there?
I'm not sure. I know it's the Rock and Roll. Well, if you mean the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they've got a lot of they've kind of turned it into that. I think they're going to have a lot of medleys of the inductees, guys like Foreigner. I think the guitarist of Ozzy Osbourne is from Youngstown. I think he's going to play. I'm not sure if Foreigner's doing the national anthem or what, but they're actually doing a lot of tributes to that, and there's some of them here. So I haven't got too much. I wrote a note about it yesterday or Friday, about that they have that as the theme with all the guys that were inducted last night, playing different songs at breaks and stuff. So you got that going for you. The big story today is Nick Chubb, win, lose, or draw. I mean, that's the focal point, at least, to get a watch and to see, what all happens, and his triumphant return, win, lose, or draw. But it's hard to think that, he's going to be the savior of this offense, the way that they played. But it is a feel-good story, and it's exciting to be here and see that. That's what most of the talk about lately about the DTR news. What's going on? Stefanski finally made a move.
Yeah, it's kind of strange to me. It baffles me a little bit. I was expecting that when they made a move, Jacob, they would go to Winston first before DTR. Does this signify anything to you different that they have flip-flopped them? I'm a little disappointed. But go ahead. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this.
So my initial reaction to it was like, WTF, what's going on here? I was very like, what are we doing? But, talking to some people in Slack and reading like what Brad Stainbrook said, and I know Corey Kinnan echoed those, where they're talking about, well, this may actually signify they're ready to bench Watson more because they're turning to the guy to see what he has in DTR. Like, what do you have here? Is this a guy you can go into next year with? Like, maybe you draft a quarterback day 2 and you go in with DTR as your starter. Like, the one thing that really depresses me is it really does feel like the waving of the white flag, because I think on that roster, the quarterback who gives you the best chance to win right now is Jamus Winston. The guy you want to find the most out about is DTR. I agree with that 100%. And you could also see Winston get traded. Like, I think that's likelihood is out there, at least as a possibility. But for me, I'm like, I totally get it. Once I took a step back and tried to be a little less emotional about it, I'm like, I get what you're trying to do, but to me, it signifies the white flag officially being waved, and that just sucks.
It does. To both you guys, the first thing I thought was the same thing. That's unfortunate. I wanted to see Winston in this offense just because I thought he would give you the ability to actually get a analysis of what we're seeing from the rest of the offense, evaluate some of the wide receivers, some of the offensive line play a little bit better, which Watson has enabled. He's really taken that ability away from you a lot of times to really evaluate what's going on truly with this offense. Would Winston step in and give you a chance to win a couple games, get around 500, try to salvage the season somewhat? But the fact that they would go straight to DTR does feel a little bit like the waving of the white flag. And does that mean that they've ruled Winston out as a possible bridge in the future as well? What do you think about that stuff, Fred?
Well, I think one interesting, we don't know how it'll unfold today. Winston has been your 4th down and short back, so he's inactive. I don't think DTR is that type of quarterback, but I would be interesting to see. If you remember last year when he was playing, they were using a little package with him, like where he would come in and, and spell the starter, and even with PJ Walker or whatever, or whenever he was healthy. Maybe they'll do something like that and kind of ease him in instead of just the pure backup. I'm sure after the game, depending on how it goes, that Stefanski will downplay the flip-flop other than they thought this was a game that they thought they could run maybe some play action or run pass options with DTR. So that could be. But to your point about Winston, I felt when they signed him that he could do everything that a Joe Flacco did last year. He was just like 9 years younger. He had that arm, he had that play action. And so I thought maybe if he could step in, you could compare it to see if, okay, do you have that magic back in the offense, or if it's just not at all, in the cards. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. I think the biggest thing is how long are they going to ride Watson? Or are you just going to, like I said, if you decide to pull the plug, it's kind of significant long term. I don't know if you say, well, we're going to switch, that you just switch right back to him. So I just is a little surprised that if they bench him.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Listen, I've been pretty steadfast that he should have been benched weeks ago. I mean, you've got it. You could go to him and even say this. Like, initially, I said this, guys, Jacob and Fred. Like, once you bench him, it's done, right? Like, that's the end of the era. But I even think at this point where he's failing to process the field and all that stuff like that, you could even go to him and be like, listen, you're struggling right now. It's obvious. He's dead last in every statistic and advanced statistic in the NFL. Like, let's sit down for a couple weeks and see what we can get. See if we can get a spark or whatever, and then we'll bring you back, right? And you don't have to bring him back, but you could at least tell him that, and that's the reason. And maybe that does help him. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw it out there, ideas at this point. Although I do think when he does sit down, it's probably the end. But the shift to DTR really kind of threw me out this morning. The other inactives, just so we can go over them real quick: Khalif Halasi, Ronnie Hickman, Jerome Ford, Nathaniel Watson, Quentin Jefferson. Fred, great points about them being more healthy. Quentin Jefferson is an odd one, or not an odd one, but was not on the injury report at all this week. So is that just a demotion there, Fred, with Mike Hall back?
Yeah, he was demoted. He was demoted last week. He was inactive with Mike Hall being active. So I think when they signed him, I thought it was a great signing. He had 6 sacks, which would have been, with the Jets last year, which would have been second to Myles Garrett last year. And yet he's really seems like he's kind of fallen into just picking up a paycheck guy, a 1-year deal. And so Mike Hall comes in, and they clearly think he can give a more presence along with Mo Hurst as opposed to Quentin Jefferson. So, I want to go back to an earlier point. They're starting the AFC North. I mean, as dismal as it's been, I still think they could get back in the race for the AFC North. And you could win the division if you won that would be your best bet to get in the playoff. You have 6 games. Obviously, it's a outside shot. But if you could beat the Bengals and beat the Ravens next week, now you're putting yourself in the divisional race. And that's why I was surprised giving up on Cooper so quickly. See how this week or next week goes. But, when you look at that, stranger things have happened. If you got on a roll, you could get yourself back in, especially in the division. You got 6 of your 11 remaining games in the AFC North. And every time you do that, that counts double because you're knocking somebody ahead of you. I mean, you're only, a couple games behind, the first place, maybe 3. I haven't looked at the standings, but you control your own destiny with 2 of them, each time. So anyway, that's where it will be interesting how they handle this today because, if you're going to play out the season and hope to draft a quarterback, then if you make that decision, you almost got to tank because I don't care. I'm tired of getting a 3rd-round quarterback or even a 5th-round quarterback. I feel like you got to get one in the top 5 or top 10, or even the top 1 and be right about it. So you just don't feel like winning games is going to do any good, even if that's the direction you're going to go.
Yeah. What did you think, Jacob, with the Coop trade and that another signification of the white flag? And is this? I agree with Fred in that this should be treated kind of like a kitchen sink game. If you have any shot at getting back in this thing, it starts today. You have to win this divisional game. So, I'm throwing trick plays, whatever it takes out there to try to get a spark on this offense. And are they going to try? One thing I noticed last week, on the offensive side of the ball, it felt like they were trying to hide Watson a little bit at times. Do you think we continue to see that?
Oops, sorry. Like going into last week, there was some stuff on Cleveland Browns Daily about throwing out Dorsey pages of the playbook. And we talked about that on the pregame show last week and stuff. And I think that you saw some of it in a sense that he was under center more than we had seen, at least at the beginning of the game, as they were trying to feel some things out. And I think you could continue to see some of those things with Nick Chubb, because all of a sudden that play action and that, power eye under center kind of run game really changes. But a lot of that has to do with, like, is he 10 to 12 touches? Is he at 15? What is that number? With the Coop thing, I felt like it was the beginning of waving a red flag. I think or not a red flag, a white flag, but not necessarily packing it completely in, but just admitting that was not going to work. Amari and Watson were not going to work. I thought that was the biggest thing that came from that. Like, they were letting you know, hey, these two, it's not coming back. We're going to get I don't think they went in intending to trade him then, but I think that they got an offer they couldn't refuse, and they were like, okay, we're going to go ahead and go with that. But I think with the return of Nick Chubb and maybe they go to some more power run, I think, you see him under center more as they try to figure some of those things out. And I like what Fred talked about, maybe having some kind of DTR package or something like that, making some of that stuff go on. Maybe that's why you put him in there, because it goes with what you just said, Brad. Throw the kitchen sink at him. Just throw it out there. What do you got to lose? I mean, you fall to 1-6 and it's over. But if you throw the kitchen sink at him and you go to 2-5, keep in mind 4 of your 5 losses are against the NFC. You lost to the entire NFC East, so you only have 1 AFC loss right now. Out there.
It matters. Yeah, that matters absolutely. I love the idea of a DTR package. They've done it before, and that's something that I would be intrigued to see. What do we think on before we move to the defensive side of the ball and a little more about the matchup here today pregame? What do we think about Chubb's pitch count? What are you guys expecting as far as like carries from him, Fred, and usage wise?
Well, I mean, with Jerome Ford out, I think it changes a little bit. They listed him as the starter. Obviously, they were going to introduce him, but I thought maybe they would not have him out there to begin and just, ease him in a couple plays here, a couple plays there. But I'm starting to wonder, Stefanski said he was going to talk to him, see how he's feeling. I'm sure a lot of it will be, you can't simulate actual in a game. He hasn't been in a game in 13 months on the field, but if anybody can do it, he'll do it. I think they will start him, rotate in Foreman, rotate in Strong, and if he's feeling good, I would hold him. I disagree that he can't have an impact on this game, because even if you keep him fresh for the 4th quarter and he is 80% of Nick Chubb that we know, that's 4 yards a carry. I mean, he's a career 5.3 yard a carry. We don't know what we're going to get. He's obviously going to be on the field, but you don't know if it's a 2.8, 3.0 yard a carry Nick Chubb like you had out of Kareem Hunt last year, or is this, the 5.3. he was averaging over 6 yards a carry last year when he got hurt. So it's unfair to really think he's going to be 100%. But if he's 80% and you had a chance to win on the last drive and you got a guy that could even touch the ball on a final drive and help you win the game, that's a completely different game as opposed to just worrying about the pass receivers. When you got to watch Nick Chubb out of the backfield or running the ball. So I think he can have an impact, but I don't know. I think it'll be a game feel. I still think even when his health and his prime, most fans think, including myself, that he needed to touch about 20, 25 times a game, and he would still only get 10, 12, 15 carries, and you're like, he's your best player. But I would think if he can get 10, 12 carries today would be really, really a big day for him.
Yeah, I think that would be that feels like the high end for me. Jacob, where are you at with his what you're expecting as far as usage? I think we'll see a heavy I think they'll get, they've announced him as a starter. I think they're going to use him like a starter on the first drive and whatnot. What do you think about total usage on Chubb? Because you really do want to be careful here.
Yeah, because Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's he's gonna advocate for the ball as much as he possibly can, as long as his body feels like it can do it. I think 10 to 12 is the safe number. I think in terms of touches, he might get more snaps. They may put him in there for some pass protection, see how he's feeling with some of those things, so they can give him kind of every aspect of what he normally is going to feel and see. But I think 10 to 12 is a good number. But, he goes out there and he's like, I can do 15, and you bump him up to, you kind of have to go by how his body's feeling. But I really would hesitate to go to anything over 15 just because of, longevity purposes.
We also have, if I'm not incorrect me if I'm wrong, but we're going to get the debut of Thrash, but also Nim Hines today. Is that correct, Fred?
That is incorrect. As far as Nim Hines, he was not activated. They rolled him out yesterday. I think they have until Wednesday. They had 21 days. This was the third game, but they actually had 3 weeks once they designated him for return. And so he is not playing today. I would expect next week that he would play. He was taking all the returns in practice that we could see at the beginning of practice. So I really thought he would be activated, but they chose not to. Thrash is active, so I expect him to be, probably the 4 receiver. I guess you move everybody up. So, yeah, I think he'll get on the field. But, yeah. Hines is not playing today. I think Jalen Darden was activated from the practice squad. So he's going to be like the 4th or 5th receiver and also the return guy. Prochet wasn't activated. So Darden the returner and Thrash or Darden is the 4th receiver today. So anyway, I'm going to have to jump out. Go on a radio show, so
all right, tear it up.
We'll catch up with you afterwards. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Represent the OBR well, Fred. Thank you for your time, sir. At the stadium, boots on the ground, the legend, Fred Greetham. Follow him on Twitter at FredGreetham9 and read everything that he does. We appreciate that. And as he departs, thank you. As Fred departs, we get Casey Kinnaman popping in on game day. Better late than never, sir.
I mean, I got to say, though, you lose Fred and you get me. That's a terrible trade.
Why did I think that I had written down that Hines was back today? I apologize to everybody. I look like a fool saying that, but it is Jalen Darden being elevated. And not Hines coming back. I guess I maybe dreamed that or something. I don't know. What's going on, Casey? How are you, sir? What do you think of old Jamus Winston on the inactive list? The flip-flop with DTR. What is happening? Tell me what is happening here, Case. I'm a little upset.
I mean, you know how I feel about it. It's my sweet prince, you know.
I know, man.
But no, I was listening on the way home, trying to get home in time to jump on with you guys, and you guys hit it. Jacob said it, man. This is just more white flag behavior. It's, you know, trending from the Amari thing to this. And I think it kind of illustrates what we were talking about on Thursday, Brad, where if there was a time to hand the ball to Jamus to salvage the season, that's probably already past us. So now this is just like pivoting towards the future. Now their pivoting isn't to win, this for development. If they move off Watson, it'll be about development more than it is about winning. Now, you might win some games along the way, but it's just to evaluate themselves for the future. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit because I don't want them to punt on the season, but it feels like that's the move now.
That's nonsense today. And listen, this is nothing against DTR, because I think DTR can be a good player. But if you want your best chance to win and you want to see this offense at its best capacity, I think that starts with Winston. I also think you have to evaluate him a little bit too. Everybody in the chat loves DTR to the backup today, though.
Don't get me wrong. I like DTR as a prospect too, but you just said it. They already have proof of concept of what you could do with a guy like Winston.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was already on the table. But if they were going to make that move should have been made 2-3 games ago, and you would be in a different spot right now, in my opinion. But you know, they've kind of put their cards on the table and showed you that if they pivot, it's going to be all about development.
Speaking of development, one way that you can absolutely develop your body is with Core Home Fitness, who is sponsoring the show today. As usual, we thank them so much for doing so. Core Home Fitness, we recently introduced you. Well, they've been our sponsor for a while now, but look them up at corehomefitness.com. Check out their assortment of lifting equipment, especially their top-rated adjustable dumbbells by the New York Times and Men's Health. They're also rated a Best Buy by Consumer Reports. Here's these some of this. There's the dumbbells right there, I believe, the adjustable ones. So check out their videos and products like the Glute Drive Plus and the Fight Master, and crush your goals in 2024. They've got a US-based support team, fast shipping, hassle-free returns, you name it. They know what they're doing. Again, check out corehomefitness.com for your ultimate in home fitness equipment. They have stepped up to sponsor the OBR today. So make sure you do that. Man, this stuff is sick, man. Right? Go check it out. Improve yourself today, right? Get better. Let's all get better. Browns need to get better. We need to get better individually. Hit corehomefitness.com and get swole. Get big. Right? That's what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah.
I need to do it. I mean, look at these arms. They're like little linguinis. I'm going to have to order some of those things. All right. Let's talk about the defense today, guys. Well, look, before we do that, we've been talking Chubb. I want to get your thought on this case. What's your pitch count for Chubb today? What are you expecting?
I mean, I don't have a pitch count. It's what his body can take. It's what he shows. You know what I mean? You might go into it wanting to limit his exposure, but if he goes in there and starts ripping off 7-yard runs, you know what I mean? It's just let his body tell you. Let his action on the field show you what he's ready for. And you obviously don't want to burn him out. But if he's out there just getting chunks, I'm not pulling him off the field. But even Fred said it last year. We were like, he's got to touch the ball 20, 22 times, and we'd see 15 to 18. So you see what it's kind of the ceiling is as far as what Stefanski's willing to use him. So I probably won't exceed that. But I'd like to see double-digit touches if possible.
Yeah, I think double-digit touches. I think 12 is like my max. I would be surprised to see him go over that. But I don't want to. Who knows what they're thinking at this point?
I'm just saying this though, man. If he can go out there and rip off a 20-yard touchdown or something, man, that the roof will come off. You know what I mean? That place will explode. So I'm hoping that happens just for the feel-good element. I feel great for him being back out there. Fred was posting video of him warming up out on the field by himself, just for him to get to this moment from where he was. And obviously, the Players Tribune article that came out this week, like you kind of get an insight to how his mind was thinking. So to get to this point, I just want to see him realize success. And I want him to feel the love from the crowd. Not obviously he's going to get that in introductions, but I want to have it in an action moment on the field. I think that'd be a capstone to really cement the fact that he made this comeback, and how arduous it had to be on him to get to this very moment right here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a special moment, and the fans, I'm sure, are going to serenade him, and it's going to be a fantastic moment. How that is met, love it. How that is met with Watson at the same time announcing the offense is going to be an interesting. Speaking of segues, that'll be an interesting one there.
Well, they're positioning it so that Chubb is the last introduced.
Yeah.
So that's smart. This PR team's actually handled this well with putting him in front of Watson during the pressers this week to kind of shield from Watson.
I hate it, though. It's a shield.
No, me too. He don't deserve any part of this. He doesn't deserve to have any role in that ugliness. But the boos will be short-lived and they'll be loud. Don't get me wrong. When they announce Watson, those boos will be thundering, but it'll be ending with Chubb as the cheers will last much longer on the back end.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I love the way Fred said it, where he's like, you just say Joel Bitonio and go Deshaun Watson, and then just move on past it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, I don't want an ugly scene for Chubb or anything like that, but I do want ownership to realize, kind of, we talked about the other night on Things I Think I Know, like that there is a angry, united fan base against the fact that you are running a guy out with the worst EPA like all time to run your team. So, yeah, and this is a game, like, if you have any shot of battling back in this thing, it has to start today.
Yeah.
And I see signs of white flags, which is a little disappointing to me, I got to be honest. So, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not what they're thinking. I'm excited to see Jamari thrash and, of course, Nick Chubb. So we'll bank on that. Let's see if the offense looks a little different. I want to talk about the other side of the ball, guys, real quick. Before last week, Cincinnati was hot on offense. They were putting up points left and right. Joe Burrow playing fantastic ball. The Browns have been blitzing at a high rate to try to create pressure on the defensive side of the ball. Joe Burrow is third best against the blitz in the NFL. He has 5 touchdowns with a 132.1 passer rating against the blitz. Do you continue? If I know Schwartz, he will continue down that path because he's a stubborn man. Mm-hmm. But will he continue to do that, Jacob? Will he continue to blitz Burrow, even though it may not be the smartest move?
I would love to say no, but I don't think that's the truth. I think he's a very stuck in his ways kind of DC. And I mean, here's the thing. He's doing a lot of the same stuff he did last year. Just teams are more prepared to counter it, as well as some of these guys aren't playing the way they played last year. I mean, look at Zadarius Smith for one. His pressure rate's like been cut in half from what he did for the first 6 games last year. It's just kind of like, I feel like a lot of times as the game goes on that the energy from the defense is just not there. At least from all of them. I think something like JOK's flying around from the first snap to the final whistle. That dude's all over the place. I don't know. Like the interesting thing about this, and I wrote this in our roundtable, Kevin Stefanski, despite whoever's playing defense, his defensive coordinator, whatever, has figured out how to make life very difficult for Joe Burrow every time he sees him. Like that is something that he's figured out. Is that a conversation he has with Jim Schwartz and they maybe switch something in this moment? I hope so, but he's probably going to lean on what got him the assistant coach of the year last year and just hope that his players who are now healthier, you got Delpit back, you got one Thornhill back. I think he's going to hope that with those guys getting healthier that they can return to some of the results that they got doing the same things last year.
What do you think, Case? What do we see today from the defense? They continue to blitz Burrow. What's the approach?
He doesn't want to blitz, man. As aggressive as we talk about Jim Schwartz being, he's not been blitz happy throughout his career, but it's been because the front four could get pressure. And this year, that's taken a nosedive, so he's kind of had to supplement it to get that pressure. So, and we've had so many things go wrong that we really haven't focused on. Well, this defensive line isn't really cooking like it was last year. That was the engine that runs that defense. So when you start to look at, we always focus on things on the back end, but this thing that drives the defense is the front end. So if they were getting more pressure, he wouldn't blitz as much. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So you need those front four to provide that pressure. Burrow is a guy that will invite the blitz. He will hold on the ball. He'll try to make plays, but he's also one of those guys that sees the opportunity when you do blitz. And so it comes down to that. But Jacob's right. The styles make fights. This defense is built to beat a team like Cincinnati with your ability to get after quarterbacks and cover with tight man on the back end. And they have enough guys on the back end that can do that you can handle a wide receiver core like Cincinnati's. But it comes down to getting home and making him as uncomfortable as possible. And if you can do that, you're going to have a shot against this team.
The issue for this defense has been the big plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last week it was the slot fade to Brown, right? And then they get the rub route on just a drag route that opens the whole entire side of the field for their other wide receiver. What's
Devonta Smith.
And, with both of those plays sticking out in my mind, I think they hit another long one too. But, a simple slot fade, a drag route, these things can't beat you. This is what you run so much man-to-man, you're going to get this stuff, right? You have to know going into the game that you're going to get these kind of routes, especially with a Chase and a Higgins and stuff like that, if you're going to leave them out there in man-to-man. So you've got to be better prepared to handle this kind of stuff. Am I wrong, Jacob?
No, the things that really get to me is when he does bring pressure and it leaves someone wide open. Like the communication where they're passing guys off when they're not in man coverage, in zone coverage specifically, has been just awful, especially if they're blitzing on that front end. Because to me, you end up blitzing, missing, somebody's wide open, and then they miss a tackle. And then they're off to the races for big explosive plays. It's happened week after week. I just think that they've got to just make sure that before you run make sure everybody's covered, dude. Make sure, I understand if the call's a blitz, but you realize, hey, we've got 5 in coverage, or we got 4 in coverage and 3 people that can, 5 guys are running routes. Let's probably maybe not leave that guy wide open or do something, have some kind of communication check out of it, whatever. I'm with you, Casey. If you can get pressure up front and with these corners as good as they should be, you can beat this team. You are built to limit this team. But the fact that you have all these 50+ yard touchdowns and 40-yard touchdowns because you're leaving guys wide open and you're not passing guys off properly and you're missing tackles. I'm to the point now where you're going for big plays. They're going for big plays, trying to knock people out. They lower the shoulder. The guy bounces off and takes it to the house. It's come on. I said it last week. I'll say it again. Just don't be dumb. Just stop being dumb.
Yeah. That's good advice for everybody out there. But yeah, no, great. They just if they could prevent the big plays like that and stuff that you're going to get when you're going to be in man all day, then they've looked good. Outside of that, not good. The tackling has been suspect and poor at times, but we know that's correctable. We've seen this team tackle well. What do you think, Case?
I don't know if it's that they tackled well. They just rallied to the ball well, so that when someone missed it, it wasn't egregious because 3 other guys were coming to clean it up. They really don't seem to be playing with that same kind of fire. And you said it, man. You said slot fades and and drag routes, crossers, jet sweeps. That's kryptonite for this team. It just is. Like if they catch cornerbacks with outside leverage and they can just run a shallow crosser all the way across the field with a natural rub to it, you just see guys come open at the end of routes, And when you're playing a team like last week with Philly, Smith has got that kind of long speed that if he can catch it, turn upfield, you're in a bad spot. You know what I mean? So it's, Jacob said it, stop being dumb. But this is the rubber meets the road moment for Jim Schwartz. You know what beats you. Everyone, there's just given how a copycat league this is, you're going to see those concepts. Again, they're going to get Jamar Chase in the slot. He's going to run fades. He does it anyway. So this week they're going, what are they going to do? And you might see Andre Yosivas. You might see him as the jet sweep guy this week. You're going to see a ton of what you've been seeing. Can you stop it? Can you deal with it? Can you see it coming? That's the part that kills me, is how do they not see this coming?
Yeah.
So it's recognition, and then you got to put a stop to it. After you stop it, people will stop running it. But until you can do that, you're going to see a ton of slot fades. You're going to see shallow crossers, drag routes, and jet sweeps.
Yeah. I agree.
You stopped like one jet sweep all year, man.
Yeah. And then when we ran one, we just left the guy unblocked that plays the edge.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Sure.
Hey, listen, I want to be positive about this game because this is the game that they turn it around. So, but let me ask you guys this question, and then we'll finish it up because I think we all want to go watch the introductions and everything with Chubb and stuff. So I want to get out of here in time for all that. But thank you guys, everybody that's in the chat. If you're watching on X, hop on over to youtube.com/Orange and Brown Report. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. It takes less than a second. It doesn't cost you a dime. It helps us out tremendously. We have shows every night of the week, twice on Sundays, twice on Tuesdays, twice on Mondays. So we're grinding out here. So help us out with that like for us. I think how can we watch the introductions? They don't show them. I think they do show them. I would be surprised.
I also think sometimes they put them on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to see probably at least Chubb's introduction.
Yeah, they're not going to show the other one before it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So thank you guys for being here, and make sure you hit like and subscribe on your way or in, out, and atone for your sins. And do as I said. All right, here we go. Let's go around the horn. Is Chubb's impact enough to push this team over the top today, Jacob?
Yes. I think, even 10 to 12 touches, I think you can still be impactful in those sort of, especially if they come in some big moments. I like what Fred said earlier, kind of like you're in ahead, or you're down by one score late in the game, and Chubb in the fourth quarter on the final drive can make some plays and just storybook it. And I'm not ready for the storybook to be thrown and burned in the trash, even though all signals tell me it has been. It's covered in lighter fluid right now, and the match is hovering over top of it. But do you want to? Oh no, we're not doing predictions yet. So yeah, I think it is.
You beat this team 9 of the last 12 times. You've won 6 straight at home against Cincinnati. That's what you got to do. You got to get that in their head, though. You got to get off to a fast start. Yeah. I think it all starts with that. You got to get in their mind and put them in that scenario where they we know this feeling. We've been to this building and we keep losing. Put that in their head. That's what it comes down to. And then get a lead, and then let the defense do what the defense does. Just frustrate Cincinnati and keep them right around 18 points. I think that's best case scenario. If you can do that, you definitely have a chance to win this game.
I've been talking about this team needing a galvanizing moment or a galvanizing situation. At least Chubb's presence presents that for you, or at least the ability. Like, if he breaks off a big run or anything like that could bring this team together, or even just his presence on the field. It doesn't have to be an immaculate, effective day running the ball from him. I don't know what to expect. We're talking about a guy coming off of his second reconstructive surgery on his knee. So I think we need to, at best, kind of try to curb our expectations here a little bit. But I do think his presence gives them something to rally around, which is something that's been missing from this team. So, what are your guys' predictions today so we can get out of here and go get ready for this game? Browns got to get it today. Got to get one today. But I'd interested to hear what you guys had predicted and throw a little analysis in there if you feeling frisky.
You're talking about the 26th ranked team allowing in terms of rush yards per game allowed. It's definitely a matchup where getting Chubb back is kind of a perfect kind of combination there, because you're going up against a defense that has really struggled to stop the run. Their safeties have not been good. Their corners have been up and down. So you have an opportunity, and I've said this for weeks, you've had an opportunity against a bad defense to try and get some things going. But I think Chubb is enough. I think it's impactful enough. I think there's a good chance that DTR is your quarterback by halftime, but we'll see what happens. And then it just all comes together perfectly. Give me the Browns 24-23 on a Nick Chubb touchdown to end it.
Wow.
I hope so, brother. From your lips to God's ears. All right, let's go. Case, what do you got for me?
Well, we're going to work it backwards. We're going to start with the score. I think this ends 21-17. I think that you do exactly what Jacob said. You're going to get that energy up. I think the defense is going to feed off the fact that Nick Chubb is on the field. I think we see a hat trick from Myles Garrett today, abusing Orlando Brown Jr., 3 sacks.
That's a lot.
Hopefully one of those strip sack fumble will set you up some momentum. I think Nick Chubb does get in the end zone today, and just the vibes are high, and you walk out of there 21-17, hard-fought AFC North win.
Good stuff from you guys. I have good news and bad news. Well, at least for my prediction. The good news is I have the Browns breaking 20 points for the first time at 22. Strange number, but 22. But I have the Bengals with 27. So, but listen, it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, there are things they can do to win this game. And it starts for me with time of possession, sustaining drives. Nick's Chubb presence should enable them to stay out of 3rd and long, which has been just unbelievable. Like, I forget what the stat was I said the other night, Case, but they are, since 2000, they are like 757 or 97 out of 798 teams in 3rd and long since the year 2000. It's like an astonishing stat that you'll fall out of your chair when you read it. Like, that's how much they've been in 3rd and long. So you have to start there, right? Let's get to 3rd and manageables. Let's get to situations that we can manage. And if you guys think that they have, and I think they probably have, kind of turned back into more Stefanski stuff, I think that's all the better at this point. I saw, if you go back and watch a lot of the stuff they were doing in Buffalo the beginning of last year, it looks really similar to what we've been doing the first 6 weeks. So, and it's not great, and they don't run it well. So I think at some point you got to do what you do well. And with a healthier line today and Nick Chubb back, I think you lean into that more, and it could lead to some success. I think the defense plays well today. I do. They'll be at home. They love playing at home, and you got Juan Thornhill back for what that's worth. It'll be interesting to see how he plays back there. So, with that, we're going to get out of here. Enjoy the game. Browns got to get this one if they got to stay alive, baby. Got to pull it off, and let's get this one right. We got the Bengals number all up in their head, so stay up in their head rent free. We're going to get out of here. Hit like, hit subscribe. Thanks to Jacob Roach. Follow him on Twitter at Roachism13. Chubb Strong, Casey Kenneman at Casey_Kenneman on Twitter. And my name is Brad Ward. We're going to get out of here. Salute to you guys for showing up. Pregame show. We'll see you afterwards to break it all down. 7 p.m. tonight. Go Browns, baby.
Browns.